Alright guys, today we're going to be talking about reciprocal trig ratios. Reciprocal trig ratios. Now in order to understand reciprocal trig ratios, what we first need to do is understand the trig ratios. So if you would please, just do a quick little review. Alright, quick little review. Could you please write the sine of theta, the cosine of theta, and the tangent of theta. And if you would please, for the sine of theta, put the opposite over the hypotenuse. The cosine of theta, put the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And for the tangent of theta, put the opposite over the adjacent. This is what we've been using pretty much all the way through this unit. We've been using sine, which is this. We've been using cosine, which is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And we've been using tangent, which is the opposite over the adjacent. So these are the three basic ones. Today we're going to be talking about what's called the reciprocal trig ratios. So in blue, I'm going to write cosecant. Except I'm going to do one more thing. Ready? Cosecant is equal to CSC. So just remember, cosecant, that's how you spell it. That's the abbreviation. Cosecant is equal to the hypotenuse over the opposite side. All right? Secant is the reciprocal trig ratio to cosine. And secant is written as SEC. We're going to say that's the hypotenuse over the adjacent side. The hypotenuse over the, that's the ratio of secant, the hypotenuse over the adjacent side. And last but not least, write the word cotangent. Just write it neater than me. We're going to write C-O-T. And the reciprocal trig ratio of tangent is cotangent, so that's opposite over adjacent. This is the, if you can't see, I'll go down a little bit more. It's the adjacent over the opposite side. So we all started out with this right here. Now I want you to have these in your journal as well. And what do we call these? We call these the reciprocal trig ratios. All right, so let's take a look at this problem. Right here it says, what is the what? What is the secant of angle B? So if you're trying to find the secant of angle B, I put a little arc on B. Once again, whenever I solve these, I always draw an arrow going across. And what does that arrow label it as? That labels that the opposite side. This side would be my hypotenuse. This would be the, that's a horrible adjacent. I'll make it drop better. A, D, J. But what does secant represent? The hypotenuse over the adjacent. Well, what is the length of my hypotenuse? 10. So this one, the secant of B, it would be 10 over, what's the length of my adjacent side? 6. So I put 10 over 6. But notice, what does it say? Reduce fractional answers to lowest terms. So what is 10 over 6 reduced to? 5 over 3. So by the way, if you don't reduce it, that's fine. You'll get it wrong. And you're like, why? Because you didn't reduce it. All right. So right here, it's going to type in 5 over 3. We'll do a couple of more, and that should be enough. All right. What does this say? What is the cotangent of B? So right here, I put a little arc. I draw an arrow going across. I label that my opposite side. I label this my hypotenuse. I label this my adjacent side. And then I have to figure out what the heck the cotangent of B would equal. Now, if the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent, the cotangent is the adjacent over the opposite side. So what is my adjacent side? 8. And what is my opposite side? Hold on. Oh, 6. All right, so I'm going to put 6. Now, if I reduce that, that becomes 4 over 3. And that's my answer if I reduce it. 4 divided by 3. All right, last one. Cosecant of A. Ooh, I got to go from I'm not going from B, I'm going from A. So I'm drawing an arc across the A. Drawing the arrow going across. This is my opposite side. This is my hypotenuse. This is my adjacent side. So how in the world am I going to find the cosecant of angle A? Well, if the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, the cosecant is the hypotenuse over the opposite side. And the length of my hypotenuse is 25. And my opposite side is 24. And that is totally reduced. You can't reduce this anymore. So my answer right here that I'm going to type in is going to be 25 over 24. Now, I'm kind of going by memory right here. So this is why you guys really need to do what? Have these in your journal. So if you have, remember, cosecant and sine are reciprocals. Cosine and secant are reciprocals. Tangent and cotangent are reciprocals. So make sure you have those down in your journal, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier to type in the right answers. All right, so 25 over 24, that's what I'm going to type in right here. And that's it. All right, so you have 7 of those questions. You just got to take your time. Make sure you do what? Reduce them if they need to be reduced. And make sure you have all of these in your journal.